We're going to talk all business today. This is Ottawa Business Matters. I'm Sam LaPrade. And we're going to kick off our show today with the one and only Sueling Ching. She is the president. She is the CEO of the Ottawa Board of Trade. Hello, Sueling.
Hello, Sam.
Okay, can I tell you I'm still on a bit of a high after attending the City Building Summit yesterday. It was fantastic. Talk to me a little bit about why this event even happens in the city.
Sure. Well, thank you for being there. And we were really excited to have so many business and community leaders spend the day with us because we recognize it's a huge investment of time. So we really work hard to make sure that it's valuable. We started this event in 2019 when we saw that there was an opportunity for the business community, the private sector, through the Board of Trade, to start having conversations not just about the policies that we have to have in place and the environment that we have to have in place for businesses to grow, but also that we had influence on where the city was going in terms of infrastructure, how we attract people, and as we know, that a lot of that conversation has changed over the last few years, particularly coming out of the pandemic. We're seeing a huge change in Ottawa, particularly our city core, and how we are going to move forward with the work from home phenomena, with the changes that we're seeing in the federal presence here in the city. So we were especially excited about yesterday's agenda, and I think that the feedback that we're getting even at this early stage is very positive.
Oh, it was incredible. And I loved that you did, I mean, the whole day was filled with incredible guests. What I loved is that you had a view into Halifax and Montreal, Vancouver, Calgary, and a lot of the issues that we face here in this city are very unique, but some are exactly the same. So hearing from others, that was really impactful for me.
That was really fun. And actually, so Mary Rowe, who's the president and CEO of the Canadian Urban Institute, I met her fairly early in the pandemic because cities across the country were being disproportionately impacted, large cities in their city cores. And so we started working with her probably a couple of years ago to start to bring some light to this. And we work in a coalition with our chamber colleagues across the country in the largest cities. And collectively, and I've shared this before, collectively our metropolitan areas across the country account for over 60% of our national GDP. So we have to make sure that we protect and transition the economies of these metropolitan areas. So Mary's very well connected across the country and across North America. And so she brought in some of these folks from these other cities to talk about that, even though we are unique here in Ottawa in many different ways, that we do have similarities and we have been working with our colleagues to say, is there a national strategy that we can be deploying? Yeah. But there was a lot you could see the relationship that has been built because, we've been talking to these people over the last few years as well.
Yeah, it was great. And then from a unique perspective, being the capital, the type of businesses that are here, there's a lot of businesses that come to Ottawa because we are the capital.
For sure.
But hearing from a number of the people that are working from the parliamentary precinct perspective and that not only 5-year plan but 100-year plan was so exciting to hear. I couldn't stop. I was looking at the speakers tell me more. I wanted to know it all. So those are opportunities that I think the average person wouldn't get a chance to see except going to an event like this.
I agree, and we were really grateful. So we had representatives at a senior level from PSPC and from Canada Lands, and so it was really a unique opportunity because the federal presence here in Ottawa is so significant. The decisions that they're making, we have to understand them so that we can plan, so that the private sector can respond to that. And as we know, pre-pandemic, 25% of our workforce was in the city core. And over half of that is public sector. So when they're making a change to their workforce strategy, when they're making changes to their asset inventory, of course it's really going to impact us. And so what we've been advocating for is clarity around what that looks like. We knew that, over a year ago when we first decided that we had to declare downtown Ottawa as a top priority, it was because they had, announced that they were going to dispose of 50% of their assets. So immediately it's like, well, how does that impact Ottawa? Ottawa, which assets are going to move and how can we prepare for those to be redeployed in a way that's going to help our city thrive. So we were really grateful to them for being there yesterday and sharing some of that information with us and demonstrating that they understand that the decisions that they're making in their national mandate also really impact the communities in which they have a presence, particularly the National Capital Region.
Oh, it was so well done. And what surprised me the most, I think, is we think about, you know, Parliament Hill, and we think about that as being almost separate from us. But the way that it was talked about, particularly from Canada Lands, was this site on how we can be collaborative on things like housing.
Yes.
That was a big surprise to me. I wanted to cheer, honestly. I was so happy.
So that we know that housing is a big part of the federal mandate in the budget that was just released. But yes, it's really exciting. So when you can talk to the people who are actually making these decisions and you can see that they are looking for opportunities to increase housing, to do it in the right way, to build new neighborhoods. And then the redevelopment of the parliamentary precinct, I think, is going to be really a legacy piece. You know, they're investing billions of dollars in that. So any other city in Canada would be thrilled to have that sort of investment. So there's the immediate and direct economic impact, but then there's also the ability to grow other areas of our economy as well through those projects. So it's very exciting.
Another really impactful thing you did yesterday was involve youth. And I thought, yes, you know, we often say, okay, we're doing our thing over here, and youth are gonna, you know, kind of be planning over here. But we brought them together. Why was that so key?
So a couple of things. First of all, 2 years ago when we had this same event, Mary Rose shamed us by saying, looking at the audience and saying, "It's so happy to see all of you here, but you're not the ones that are actually going to make this happen." So it was partly that, but also the Board of Trade has just gone through a strategic renewal, and we've always been conscious of sort of having the youth element, but we've made it a priority now. And so there's two pieces. How do we engage young people in these conversations that we're having about the future of the city, but also how do we make it easy for them to lend their lens to our decision making as well. So I was so impressed. So we've been working with Youth Ottawa, and they have this program where they have the Youth Ottawa counselors, and they have those young people who are shadowing or working with city councilors so that they have greater insight into what the inner workings are of the city. And I thought they did a beautiful job yesterday sharing their views. And I was particularly interested in their call to us to look at pursuing the UN designation to make Ottawa a child and youth friendly city. And wouldn't that be an interesting way for us to drive economic development for the future? And I was particularly interested in the speaker that followed them, which was Dr. Mike Moffat from the University of Ottawa. He was there to talk about housing, but what he really talked about is that if we want to have 30-year-olds in our businesses, right, as part of our city, then we need to start building our city for 2-year-olds. So we need to start building for young families to come here. So I thought there was a lot of synergy there between, you know, where he saw housing going, which we're in a housing crisis, and he talked about that we need to understand there's an urgency for us to moving that forward, and that it really aligned with the way that the young people saw the city as well.
I thought it was great. Coming off the federal budget, I thought it was the perfect
Yes,
sort of
sure.
you know, way to kind of energize the city. How are you feeling about the budget?
I mean, we saw a lot of positive things in the budget around housing. Of course, we're very interested in how they're going to redeploy the assets that they have, particularly in Ottawa, and we saw some focus on that, some funding to help back that up. There's still a lot to unpack there. You know, we are concerned with some of the tax measures that they have deployed, and so continuing talks on how that's going to roll out and maybe how we can influence that moving forward. But in general, what we want to continue to see and that we've been calling for is for these policy decisions to be made with consultation and consensus building with every area of our community, and particularly the private sector. The private sector is responsible for driving the economic growth agenda for our city and for our country, and that is how we're going to serve in the best interests of Canadians. And so we want to make sure that any sitting government does not lose sight of that, and that it is demonstrated very clearly through their policy making and the budget making processes.
So we only have a couple of minutes, but you've just come off the federal budget. Now, of course, City Building Summit. What's next for the Ottawa Board of Trade?
Yeah, so I mean, we're getting ramped up for our 40 Under 40 Gala. Again, another opportunity for us to celebrate and highlight young leaders in our community. We're just getting ready to finish up our Ottawa Business Growth Survey, so those results will come out. And if there's one thing that we've learned coming out of the pandemic, we need to be understanding what the data says and having the pulse on the business community. So we're looking forward to that. And then we have our Women, Wit and Wisdom event coming up on May the 22nd. So that's an opportunity for us to highlight local women leaders, to talk about, you know, the real things that they're facing as it relates to leadership and building a legacy and having some life balance. So we're excited about those events. Those are opportunities for us to convene thought leaders, for people to connect to each other and develop some thought leadership pieces.
And as I was at the city building event, and when I go to every event that I can for Ottawa Board of Trade, I think, why isn't everybody here?
No, I know.
So talk to me a little bit. We only have about a minute, but membership. I mean, you're open for business, right?
Yeah, we're open for business, and I mean, I believe every business in Ottawa should be a member of the Ottawa Board of Trade. We're a not-for-profit independent association. The only reason we exist is to represent the interests of the business community, to give business leaders a platform for influencing how the city progresses, how we frame policy that impacts the competitive business environment. So we invite all of them to be a part of that. And, you know, the downtown as a focus is an example of that. You know, we saw that it impacted every area of the city. We embarked on, you know, gathering together an advisory committee of key stakeholders. We engaged experts like the Canadian Urban Institute, and next month we'll be releasing our action plan, and then we'll continue to advocate for that. So that's just one example. We have many policies that we've been advocating for small business. We have programs that we run for small business. So we're just really the connective-ish tissue of the business community, and so we invite all members to join us.
Well, I'm hoping we've inspired someone today.
I hope so too.
Yeah. Sueling, thank you so much.
Thank you,
Appreciate it
Sam.
very much.
Sueling Ching, of course, President and CEO of the Ottawa Board of Trade. Coming up next, Michael Allen. Stay with us on Ottawa Business Matters. And we're back on Ottawa Business Matters. I'm Sam LaPrade, and I'm so happy to welcome to the show Michael Allen, President and CEO of United Way, East Ontario. Hello, my friend. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
I'm so excited to see you. And I got to see you this week because, of course, you were at City Building Summit. Now, tell me why the President and CEO of United Way was at City Building Summit for the Ottawa Board of Trade.
Well, you know, that's a great question, Sam, and frankly, one that I will answer both in terms of a sense of responsibility and duty to be part of that conversation, but also a sense of appreciation for the Board of Trade and for the business community, to recognize that the work we do, the work that is represented by the community sector and is supported by United Way and its donors, is very much part of the economic fabric and some of the challenges that have to be addressed from a social justice perspective. And so that's why we were there, and I was glad to be there, flattered to be there. We had a strong contingent. I'd love to see more of the community sector there, because many of the challenges that the business community says that they face find their challenges in the context of social justice issues, inclusion, addictions, homelessness. All of those issues were tabled yesterday at the summit. And
that's exactly it. I thought to myself, why isn't everybody here? Because I thought it was so well done. But talking about things like homelessness, like you mentioned, talking about the addictions challenges that so many people are dealing with, and then we had youth there. It was just this beautiful combination. And when I think about all of the fundraising that's been done, so generous in this city, that has boistered this city to be able to create some of these incredible programs at United Way.
Well, there's no doubt that we rely on a very generous community in order to support the things that we do, but I think it is supported not just by a sense of generosity and philanthropy and a sense of responsibility that is part of what makes Ottawa special, what makes Ottawa great. And to see that embedded so well with people like Sueling and the Board of Trade and the City of Ottawa is absolutely something that in many communities they still aspire to, that somehow the charitable sector, those challenges are social challenges or challenges for the police or challenges for the social sector and aren't part of the fabric of what makes life important, is I think a very mature and a dynamic that we're very, very grateful for.
I really consider United Way East Ontario a very big partner in what we do, because without United Way doing the incredible work that you do, and then you've got obviously the businesses, and you think about the Ottawa Hospital in a big capital campaign, it all works together, right? We talk about those, the tide that floats all boats, right?
Yeah.
That opportunity for us all to be working together. That ecosystem, talk to me a little bit about, you've been in this job a long time, and I mean that lovingly.
Thank you.
But talk to me about what you've seen, the changes you've seen to bring us to this point in our time.
Yeah, well, I think it is perhaps fundamentally a reflection of the kind of people, the kind of leaders that we have in this community. We tend to have a well-educated community, a community that doesn't have as some of the extremes in terms of wealth, and we have a diverse community. And so I think there is a recognition that in order for us to be a successful community, its quality of life, absolutely, it needs an economic engine driven by business. But the federal public service is a big part of this community. We spoke about that a lot yesterday, and the unique challenges it presents. But also good universities, good schools, and a good education system, important social services. And particularly when our community is stressed, in part because of the pandemic, but many of these challenges were there before in terms of homelessness, in terms of mental health, that there's a recognition that those things are important. And so the ecosystem that you speak to is one that starts off with an appreciation that people understand what the quality of life means. It's not just being successful in business, it's being successful in life. And that is a very healthy place to start and a foundation we build on at United Way.
When I say the term community wealth building to you, what does that mean to you?
Well, I know Sueling and you have been discussing this, and so one of the things that, I'll go back just a little bit, Sam. One of the things that happened during the last municipal election was that there was a strong sentiment that the previous council and politics in general had become very divisive, very polarized. And organizations like the Board of Trade, United Way, and in fact Labour, the Ottawa District Labour Council, got together and said, you know what, we oftentimes are seen publicly as at odds with one another or competing with one another. There's so much more we have in common to make this city great. Why don't we take an opportunity to step up in the context of this election and say these are the issues that we all agree are important. One of those issues is captured by this notion of community wealth building, which is recognizing that in order for our community to be successful, we need to provide opportunities for everyone to participate. Those that are disabled, those who are not as advantaged economically, those who are perhaps single and dealing with challenges in their family lives, dealing with mental health. Those are all issues that if we can find a way to include them as opposed to looking upon them as a burden to support, that would be better. And that's what is the core of community wealth building. How can we ensure that the economic benefit that's generated by business is increasingly returned to our community, as opposed to contracted to a multinational or contracted to another part of North America or another part of Canada? There are businesses that we can grow here in town that support people with disabilities. employees that can be staffing jobs here who are from less advantaged, less engaged, less included groups. And that's what community wealth building is. Let's start with building the wealth that is distributed by our business community, by our government, in our own community.
And when I think about United Way, I mean, you've obviously the trends you've seen over the last number of years. One of them that is just gut-wrenching to me is the level of intimate partner violence. And one of the most impactful things that I did in 2023, and I'm gonna try not to get emotional, but that you asked me to present 4 community building awards to these incredible organizations and women that had really dug deep into their communities and tried to make an impact, and they've made an impact.
They have.
Why focus on that particular issue, for instance?
Well, a couple of reasons. One, that it was one of those issues, not unlike many, that were exacerbated during the pandemic. That one of the things that we said to people during the pandemic is stay home. Well, for people who were experiencing, usually women who were experiencing intimate partner violence, that was a terrible option for them. And so we recognized that coming out of the pandemic, and even during the pandemic, we had to do some creative things. And those agencies that stepped up during the pandemic to help those people were heroes, frankly. And then, of course, the other thing was that we had, a very catalytic event in Renfrew with the murder because of intimate partner violence, because in Renfrew County, a number of women who were murdered, and it was an inquest. And that inquest provided the foundation, a rallying cry for many in this sector to plot a course to engage government, to reform some of the challenges that our communities face, that our systems face, in terms of not dealing with this issue effectively. And frankly, the third thing was that they'd been toiling in this space for years and years, unrecognized. And they were doing heroic work before the pandemic and then during the pandemic. And we felt that they needed voice. And so we were so honored to provide that voice to them. And since then, as you know, Sam, it was just a few weeks ago, or even a couple weeks ago, that the Ontario legislature finally adopted recommendation number 1 from the inquest, which was to recognize intimate partner violence as a crisis. And they did so unanimously. When was the last time the provincial legislature approved anything unanimously? So, yay, and they provided funding to support that. So we have some work to do yet, no doubt, but nevertheless some traction for this issue. So for us, our funding, our support, our recognition, if it any way contributed to that kind of trajectory that we're on now, then we're feeling pretty good.
Wonderful. You've got incredible programs at United Way. Talk to me a little bit. We've only got a couple of minutes, but talk to me about some of them that that you're really proud to be sharing today.
Yeah, well, one of the things that we're very proud of that distinguishes this community from others, and one that we'll talk about again, I hope, is around youth addictions. And so one of the things that we did years ago, because of some of the challenges that our community faced, is that we were called upon at the time of the mayor at the time to see if we could do something about youth addictions. And it started with youth treatment centers, which we have. Thank heaven we have great youth addiction treatment centers. But we also recognize that, treating addictions is important, but preventing addictions would be even better. And so we now have a network of school boards throughout the community, high schools, there's counselors in every high school, and we are seeing the results of that investment pay off. We're still losing the battle because addictions are now even more challenging, but we're seeing the results of that happen now in terms of our better performance, our better numbers compared to other communities. Thank heavens, because we will only solve this problem if we can prevent it from happening, if we can prevent people from drowning in the river before they have to be pulled out. So that's one program that I'm very proud of. The other thing that we're beginning to work on now is, and we've been working on it for some time, but the stresses and strains are there, is anti-hate, anti-racism. Ottawa, we're blessed with not having the worst, but it's still here. And we'll both remember Rabbi Bulka, who used to speak to us about if we could only be kinder to one another. And I think it's more complicated than that, but that sentiment is absolutely foundational to the work of anti-hate. And so we're going to get into that space with many other partners to see if we can't promote a more kind culture in our community and address some of these harder edges that are contributing to the hate and violence in our community.
Well, it's been very kind for you to join me today. Thank you so
a real
much.
honor.
Appreciate it very much. Michael Allen is the president and CEO
of the United Way East Ontario and an incredible leader in our community. Speaking about leaders, Jennifer Stewart's coming right up. Stay with us on Ottawa Business Matters. I can't even hide my excitement. I'm so excited because Jennifer Stewart is here, President and CEO of Syntax Strategic. You're in the big chair. I'm so excited. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Great.
Feels like girlfriends catching up.
I know, and I miss you so much because we used to spend a lot of time together, and but we're together now.
Okay,
so
that's all
good.
that matters.
That's good.
Yeah.
So when I think about business leaders and I think about women in this city, you are a top name that comes to mind.
Oh, that's so kind.
How does that make you feel?
You know what? It's such an honor because I look back at 25-year-old me that started this business, that hustled, that went to every networking event, that took personal money to invest in my company at the time. And I had this unfaltering belief that I could do it. I call it kind of false youthful confidence. I'm not sure I'd have that now. And it feels really good. But it's honestly, Sam, it's women like you supporting other women in business and elevating their voices, having them on their shows, introducing them to other women. That is what elevates other women. But it's such an honor.
Yeah, it's incredible. You've done incredible things. And so take me back to 25-year-old Jennifer.
Yes.
If I said to you, okay, by the way, your company is going to be like a really big deal and you're going to have 25 people working for you, what would you have said?
You know what? I would not have believed it. So I was 25, I was very good at what I did, and I had seen my parents. So my dad owned a few companies, my mom was a lawyer and then a judge. So I had seen this, I'd grown up with this environment of being your own boss. And I won't name the company, but I was sitting in a cubicle and it was very bureaucratic and there wasn't a lot of autonomy. And I thought, you know what? I'm gonna quit. I'm going to quit with class and grace, as you do, as I was taught, and I'm going to freelance. And then I got the first little bite of bringing in a client, the second little bite of it, and I thought, I'm not going to freelance, I'm going to start a business. So then I incorporated, and I hired my first staff member at 26, and I can tell you I've hired dozens of people since then. The first is the hardest. That first decision to leave a secure job is the hardest. That first person you hire, I literally felt sick sending over the contract because I'm now in charge of their life. And if they have a mortgage, I'm bringing in that business to support it. And then it became a bit of an addiction. Like, how do we grow? How do we hire the best people? Because I'm good at what I do, but I'm surrounded by people, frankly, Sam, that are better than me at their respective fields. So how do we bring in people that are going to help grow this, that have vision? And then it's about authenticity. So it's your relationships in the city. It's bringing your true self to those relationships, and people really appreciate that. So would 25-year-old me have believed it? No. Am I proud of my 25-year-old self for having a vision and executing that vision? Absolutely.
Absolutely. And I know I can't name all 25, but I get to work with Jennifer Madigan and I get to work with Megan Shaw.
Yes.
So just two of the great people that you've brought to the table. But if you were describing Syntax Strategic in kind of an elevator pitch, what would you say you do?
So we're full service. So if your company needs strategy, execution, design, web, marketing, or advocacy, you come to us, and we have Canada's leading subject matter experts in all of those divisions. So we have organizations that one month want a website built. The next month they want to go to Parliament Hill and have a Hill Day, but they need communications, collateral, and meeting design, and we do that. So we're a full service strategic communications agency. And that's how I got my start. I worked in Toronto at a full service communications agency, one of the biggest in the country, and I saw what a benefit it is to organizations to be able to tap into these great minds and get everything from one source. And that's what we've built and we continue to build.
good for you. And when I think about you, it's okay, right? That I think about I think about Catherine Clark too.
We're a team. We're a package.
So Jennifer Stewart, Catherine Clark, because you do the honest talk.
We do. So Catherine and I have been friends for years, and we're having a conversation in 2019 about we need a platform to elevate female voices in the city and across this country. And we actually started out looking at event spaces and thinking that we're going to travel across the country and host these events. And Catherine is such a natural host.
She's awesome.
She's like the best person ever. And then, of course, like everybody else, the pandemic hit. So we pivoted, the word of 2020, and we launched a podcast. And we've spoken with almost 100 incredible women, from ministers to chiefs of staffs to business leaders and CEOs to recording artists, and it's been so inspiring. And last November we launched a media site for women, thehonesttalk.ca. It's updated daily with news that matters to women. It's curated daily, and we've got some really exciting partnerships that we can't quite share yet, but are going to elevate this project onto a North American stage. And I'm so excited to share when it comes out. And we just confirmed October 4th at the Shaw Center for what we're calling the Women's Summit, presented by The Honest Talk. And we're going to bring hundreds of women together. We'd love to have you there, Sam.
I'd love to be there.
And we're going to talk about issues from finances to investing in yourself to building your business, and to having that bravery, and you're one of the most brave people I know, to do what serves you in business and in life. So we're super excited about that. But Catherine I can't say enough about her. She's such a genuine person. She's so fun to be in business with.
Well, and you're great. You're a great duo.
Yeah.
When I saw that, I was like, well, that makes sense. I remember of course that's a duo, right?
Yeah.
That's wonderful. And you gave me an opportunity to share a story that was really a story of mine, a personal story of mine. I think those personal stories that you're encouraging a number of women to share, I think about Megan Shaw as well. She shared a very personal story. I think that is therapeutic for us.
And I think it's so needed. I think as professional women, we sometimes put on this facade because women before us had to integrate into a men's world. That's changed. A lot of my mentors are men, and we need to have these conversations that just take that facade off. So the idea for the digital media platform was actually an essay I read, whether you love her or not, by Meghan Markle on her experience with a miscarriage.
Right.
And so many women have experienced either fertility challenges or a miscarriage. And it shed this image of her being a royal, and it took it to a very human level. And I called Catherine and I said, we've got to do this. We have to humanize the female connection, and we've got a platform to do so. And thus, the site was born. And we've been really fortunate. We get essays every week from women that, we approached you, but we're not necessarily soliciting, because they want to share their story and they want to have their voice heard. And it's been a really remarkable experience.
What would you say to somebody right now that maybe they're graduating from Carleton or they're graduating from Algonquin or Ottawa, and they're thinking, sure, Jennifer can do it, but I can't do it. Talk to them right now.
Oh, you know what? I would say you absolutely can do it, and you should do it. I always say I want a big life, and I tell other people that I mentor and graduates that I speak to, aim for a big life. Go soak in all the experiences, but take that step to do what serves you, whether that's entrepreneurship or volunteering in your community or starting a charity or a foundation. Just take that leap and believe in yourself. And it's not always perfect. I mean, Sam, like running a business through the pandemic with 20 employees and then an economic recession, I mean, we have thrived and done well, but it is a lot of stress. So, go in, don't have rose-colored glasses, but go in with a belief in yourself and tap into your network. I mean, I had an incredible business coach for years. He is now the mayor of Ottawa, so I miss him.
Yes.
But who I would call at any point, in the day and be like, look, this is happening, or, this client did this, or I have an internal struggle with a team member. So surround yourself with people that are going to be there for you, and you don't have to do it alone. And build your network of like-minded people. I mean, it's funny, I've got 20 women on the team, and people often say to me, oh my goodness, isn't that catty? And I say it's the exact opposite. Like, I would not be where I am without that network of women and that mutual support. It's not all about you, it's about other people's visions and aspirations as well. So yes,
said.
you can do it.
Beautifully said. And when I think about the Ottawa Board of Trade, I think about networking.
Yes.
So you're a member of the
Yes,
Ottawa Board
yes.
of Trade. How important is it for you to be connected at that way?
They are the voice for the city business leaders. They are moving the needle on so many issues that are so important to entrepreneurs. You know, whether you choose to have your business in downtown or in the outskirts of the city, they are your voice. So it's incredibly important. And the work they're doing on the downtown core serves all of us. I have an office downtown, I have an office in Carp. I care about the viability of our downtown core. So hats off to Sueling and her team, and hats off to Invest Ottawa as well. I mean, if you look at the two economic engines in the city, they're both headed by incredibly talented and visionary women in Sonia Shorey and Sueling Ching. And to me, as a business leader in the city, that is inspiring and sets us apart from other cities.
What's next for Jennifer Stewart?
What is next for Jennifer Stewart? So Jennifer Stewart wants, that's really odd to talk about yourself in the third person. What is next? I want to continue to grow the Honest Talk. I have huge plans for the Honest Talk. My husband and I are embarking on a significant capital project. We are rebuilding a grain mill, which is going to be intensive. And my first love is syntax, so continuing to grow that. So I am a true entrepreneur at heart. You know, at any one time there's a number of businesses, but you know, you have to focus and you have to surround yourself with really strong team members. So what's next for me is just personal and business growth and finding ways to give back to my community and to my ecosystem in ways that I can. You know.
I just hear your name in every circle, like whether it be a business circle, but also philanthropy circles. That you've been very kind. I think about the Ottawa Regional Cancer Foundation. I remember oh my gosh, you wouldn't believe what Jennifer Stewart did for us. Like, I think that is also really important, that it be, it's all connected. Like we spoke with Michael Allen from United Way. It's all connected.
So my kids' school has a saying, give what you can when you can, and that can be financial, it can be sweat, blood, and tears. Now that I'm in a position to give, I do. You know, we don't make a huge deal of it, and I also give a lot of myself and my team. And I think that is so important. And also your time. I sit on the YSB Foundation board. I am the chair of the Village of Carp Business Improvement Association, which I absolutely adore. I've been involved with the Cancer Foundation for many years. And I think it's just really, my parents taught me that. It's really important. If you have a lot in your life and you have energy or means to give, you give. And we're all one community. And you know, United Way does such, and Michael Allen, they do such a great job of being that focal point in our city that connects everybody socially and economically so that we can be better together.
Absolutely. I want to send everyone to the Honest Talk. So how can we find the Honest Talk? And
TheHonestTalk.ca.
Perfect.
And our interview with Sophie Gregoire Trudeau came out yesterday. Her book is amazing. Catherine and I got an advanced copy. One of the best nonfiction books I've read in a long time. So TheHonestTalk.ca, and it's changed and updated daily. So if you're having your morning coffee and you want news about issues that impact you, whether it's politics or culture or entertainment or essays like we talked about, it's updated daily. So we'd love the support.
Perfect. Jennifer Stewart, thank you so much.
Thank you, Sam.
Appreciate it very much. Jennifer Stewart.
She is the president and CEO of Syntax Strategic, and you can find her at The Honest Talk as well. When we come back, we're going to celebrate 50 years in business. Come on back. And we are back on Ottawa Business Matters. I'm Sam LaPrade. We're celebrating 50 years in business. Capital Business Interiors owner is here, as well as the VP of Sales, Mike McCarthy. How are you?
Excellent. Thank you
And
very
you
much.
brought your friend Jeff Snyder with you.
Yeah.
I'm here, feeling good.
It's fantastic. Take me back to 1974.
1974. Well, I
You were
was
three.
I was 3, and my father actually founded the business in 1974 after working with Steelcase. He decided there was an opportunity in the market to open up an office furniture dealership. And so he had the business up until 1996, where unfortunately he passed away. from a heart attack, and it was left to me. So it's been quite the journey. If I were to look back and say, you know, over the 50 years of Capital, what would be my big milestone? I think it would be looking at my dad's tenure at 22 years and when I actually surpassed that. So I'm now in my 28th year, and that's when it really started to feel like it was mine. And it was a big moment for me, because having the same name as my father and being a junior, it was a challenge to establish my own identity. And we've been able to do that through a lot of hard work and effort. And yeah, I think that was one of the bigger kind of milestones for me as a person with the business for 50 years.
Planning on seeing you today, I was reflecting on time I had with your father, and it was sort of 1992, 93, somewhere in there, and he was just so kind, and so I was.
It reminds me back of the funeral when we had it at St. Pat's, and the pastor came to me, or the priest came to me and said, you know, Mike, I've never seen it as full as this, only on Christmas Day. He had a major impact on a lot of different people within the community, and he was very much loved. And so those were some very large shoes to fill.
Absolutely. You've done a beautiful job.
Thank you.
Beautiful job. And you brought your friend, as we mentioned, Jeff
Absolutely.
Snyder's here.
Jeff, yeah.
VP of Sales, that's a big job.
It's a big job, yeah. Well, and it's funny, we talk about Mike's dad. I started in the company in 1994. So I'm 30 years in September, hard to believe.
Yep.
I was 5. But yeah, no, I got to know Mike's dad really well, and saw the type of guy he was. And I've known Mike actually a lot longer than I knew his dad. So I've known Mike, and I knew the type of guy he was. So that was shocking, but it's been interesting to see how Mike has kind of taken the helm from a young man being 25. And I stuck with him. I've stuck with the company because it's a great place to work, and we've had a lot of success in the market. And I've enjoyed my job. Yeah, but it's hard to believe it's been 30 years.
Oh, it's incredible.
Yeah, where did that go?
And I think anybody driving Hunt Club and Terry's, they've seen Capital Office Interiors there. They may not know exactly what you do, so help us out.
Well, essentially, Capital Office Interiors provides products and services for the office environment, and we.
Yeah, no. That's what I always say is that the end result is furniture. But what we're really doing with organizations is we're helping them use their space to get the best out of their people, right? So it's creating space that drives their culture, that helps people with innovation. We're really getting business to think about, you know, how am I going to use my space to be more effective, okay? And then through an iterative process and spending a lot of time with the leaders of the organization as well as the people, and working with other consultants as well, we come up with a space that is going to really be customized for that company, something that's going to help them be better. And what we found through the pandemic, what's really important is create something that's flexible.
Yes.
'Cause something's going to happen,
Yes.
right? And you don't know what it is.
Yes.
And you can create something that's great today, but with demographic changes and black swan events, make sure you can change it, make sure you can change it quickly, so build in flexibility. So as you change as a business, and as the market changes, you have the right solution that you can stick with. Here's the thing, Sam, that people don't think about. When you start working with a partner for your office furniture, it seems like, oh, it's just furniture, whatever, just a bunch of artifacts. You're going to work with them for a long time, right? Consultants will come and go, right? But we're usually working with companies for decades at a time. We have clients that were there before I got there in 1994 that we still work with. So you want to select carefully. You want to make sure you've got a good relationship and you've got a trusted partner that can really help them through difficult times.
For sure.
So that's a really short sentence on what we do.
No, it's perfect. It's perfect. I feel so hip whenever I go, I'm just going to be at my hot desk. Because things have changed, right? I mean, a hot desk, I didn't even know what a hot desk was years ago. And now I pull up with my laptop. Yeah, exactly. Pull up with my laptop and I look really, really, hip working at the hot desk. But as Jeff said, and you alluded to as well, things have changed so much.
Absolutely.
How have you had to adapt?
We've had to adapt on many different levels. Like if you think about, from a high-tech boom through to kind of the high-tech meltdown in the Ottawa market, and then we talk about the financial crisis, and then we talk about the pandemic and hybrid work models. We've had to adapt and evolve through the whole process. And we recognize that through innovation and technology, the office has changed. I mean, we used to have lots of storage and lots of filing and lots of cable management. Now it's Wi-Fi and it's laptop and it's height adjustable. And so we've really had to adapt with that. And I really think that having the team that we have at Capital Office Interiors with the people that we have has made that transition a lot easier because we focus on some of our core values, which is really family, loyalty, integrity, curiosity, and passion. And then what we do is focus around those core values and then try to make decisions for ourselves and for our clients around those. So that has helped us be able to adjust to these different changes in the marketplace.
It's brilliant. To work for a company for 30 years
Yeah.
that's been around for 50 years, it's rare.
Yeah.
Do you celebrate that in your
I
own?
do,
in your own
I
world?
do,
Yeah.
and I'm kind of weird that way,
It's
right?
so
Like,
good.
no, but I mean, I come
Yeah.
across so many of my friends, right, that I went to Wilfrid Laurier University with, and they have had multiple jobs. And now you look at, you know, a lot of the younger cohorts, right? They're into these, you know, these horizontal moves, right, to you know, have upward mobility across different organizations. It's very rare to meet someone my age, young, who has worked at the same place for so long. Well, Mike just said a bunch of the reasons why, right? It's a great place to work. I love working with this guy, right? We've been friends for a long time. That integrity, the trust, the family, right? I don't want to work anywhere else, right? It's been a big part of my life. It's part of me. It's part of my brand, my culture, who I am. It's just been a fantastic place to work, and we're hiring right now.
Yeah. I love it. I love
Yeah,
it. You just
absolutely.
never know.
Yeah.
So I'm pitching,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
no,
You never
it's
know.
and you know, we've had people leave the organization, right? And you know, grass is always greener,
Yeah.
and they come back.
Come back. I knew
Multiple.
you were going to say
Yeah,
that.
Multiple.
It's just
Yeah.
it's a special place to work. It started with Mike's dad. Mike took the ball, ran with it, and did it even more
Yeah.
than his dad did. And we've got lots of employees actually that have worked there longer than me. But we love bringing in new people and having them gain the experience of working at a locally owned company, right? A family company that is really committed to the Ottawa market.
Yeah, and the fresh eyes of fresh people coming in is always
It's
a good
needed.
thing, too.
Yeah.
It's needed,
It's needed.
especially with technology.
Yes.
You know,
Sure.
we're moving a lot more into automation and 3D renderings, and that skill set is not necessarily with us. It's with younger generations. So we definitely need the new blood to support our evolution.
How are you celebrating 50 years?
Well, I'm really looking forward to having a bash. We used to have an old St. Paddy's Day bash. We no longer do that anymore. But I think the number one thing is we're going to make a large investment in the showroom. We're going to kind of revamp that. So once we get that investment done, and we're doing some architectural changes as well as some structural changes within the building, we're planning to have a big party in the fall.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's great.
I'm really
And-
looking forward to it.
Yeah, and really, and you know, it's an opportunity to celebrate for sure. What would your dad say about this milestone?
I think he'd be very proud. I think it was his vision. He knew there would be ups and downs, but the fact that we were able to carry it on and keep those core values, I think he'd be very proud that we've reached 50 and keep going. You know, I'm going to be doing this for at least another 10 years, and I know that there's going to be a transition plan for Capital to continue to support the Ottawa market, but also the staff, and to keep that family atmosphere. It's very important to me.
Because you must work, Jeff, with varying clients, you know, small businesses, but big corporations, federal government maybe. I mean,
Yeah.
it must be a lot of every day's different, I'm
I
assuming.
would say that's one of the things that makes us a little different in the market, and I've heard this from clients. We will work very carefully and spend a lot of time on a small client, right, where we're doing 2,000 square feet. We're working on some right now for a lot of change happening in downtown, as you talked to your previous guests about,
Yeah.
and we're really involved with that. But we really care about those businesses that are growing in our community. But we have a lot of big contracts, right, where we deal with big national, international companies. And you look at vertical markets. I mean, we do a lot in education, right? We do a lot in healthcare. We do a lot in private industry. Of course, in Ottawa, you're going to do a lot with the federal government, which we do. So yeah, this is another part of the reason that I've been there a long time. Every day's different, right? We have such a range of clients, right?
Yeah, and to jump on that point, we've had to evolve because in a lot of ways we were very much commercial, private. In the last kind of 10 to 15 years, because there's been changes in our industry, we've really had to adapt into those vertical markets where we're now supporting healthcare and education, where you normally wouldn't think of us, you'd think of us more as the old 80s cubicles, 90s cubicles kind of thing. Well, we're well past that. Yeah. And we're creating innovative spaces and collaborative spaces. So that is needed in all aspects of the market, specifically in education and in healthcare. And we're starting to touch on even some smaller areas like common areas for apartment buildings and stuff like that, yeah. Right. So they're looking for a little bit more of an upgrade from a commercial grade point of view from the products that we deliver, but they're also looking for the services and the design that we have. So yeah, it's really, really fascinating and is expanding the overall market within those verticals.
What would you say to anybody that is maybe thinking about coming to work for Capital
Call me.
Office? Yeah. There's an easy answer.
Yeah,
We'll
no,
have a
as I
chat.
described, I mean, you know, obviously I think it's a great place to work as evidenced by 30 years. But they could talk to me, talk to Mike, and talk to any of our employees. It is a really good place to work.
How many employees do you have in total, Mike?
Right now, 30.
30, wow.
Yeah.
So you're employing a lot of people.
We used to have a lot more. We went to a bit of a contracting model. We had as many as 50 installers. There's a large component in our industry where the actual installation takes a lot of manpower. So with the peaks and valleys, what I've done is I've had to do a bit of a contracting model. We still have a core group of installers, but we bring them on. So we can have, we could be paying 60 or 70 at any given month, but the core group would be 30.
Well, congratulations to you both.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful. 50 years in business. Capital Office Interiors, congratulations.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you for having us.
Our pleasure.
Mike McCarthy joining us today, and Jeff Snyder. Thanks for joining us for Ottawa Business Matters. I'm Sam LaPrade. Until next time, make sure you support local. Thanks, guys. That was great.